Are you ready for the TFT World Championship? Because this is the patch that it is going to be played on, and also we are going into some of the final patches of set 10. In this video, we're going to be covering all the changes and how they are going to potentially affect the meta, but I will say that this is a very small patch. It might be the smallest patch in TFT history. That's what I think Mortdog said, who is the developer of the game, and let's take a look. So it's a little bit more than this, but these are the major changes they're kind of doing. Dragon Claw's getting a buff. They're making some double up improvements. I think they are deprovements, but I can see the reasonings behind them. 3.5 revival balance update, and then they're also making a new team planner snapshot. So team planner snapshot now allows players to quickly import champions from their field directly into the team planner with a click of a button. Just open up the team planner and click snapshot and confirm. Great feature. I am surprised this was not in the original version, but I'm glad that they added it now. This will probably save, like, someone should do the math calculation of all the TFT games played and how much time players will save by adding this button. It probably is something extraordinary. Next up, we have the Windows minimum spec update. So before they mentioned that they will no longer be supporting Windows 7, 8, 8.1, blah, blah, blah. And I guess it's going live now. They're also discontinuing support for TFT on Chrome OS, meaning that players on this OS will no longer be able to update to a later patch. Sad days. I don't really have a Chrome OS device, but I guess if you do, you might have to switch to something else. Riot Vanguard, oh no, we've been discussing Riot Vanguard's anti-cheat software being used in Valorant arriving globally. After some testing, the diagnostics check on PvE, we've elected to change the rollout plan. Instead of a global rollout, we're going to be releasing a single region first, the Philippines. This allows us time on live servers to evaluate how Vanguard is functioning and being experienced before making adjustments if required. Okay, perfect. I don't have to use it yet. So personally, I obviously don't really like this change. Like, how do you even cheat in TFT? I understand it's more for League of Legends, but I just don't like random stuff running on my computer. But I guess we don't have a choice. Next up we have is large changes. So finally the TFT, like, actual changes. So large, like the announcement coming at the end of the championship on March 3rd. Okay, so I guess we have to watch out for that. I'm guessing it's just like the set 11 announcement. We need to take bets on whether it is or not. So items, Dragon Claw needed a buff for like a very long time. Negatron is probably the worst component. It's literally just used to build Even Shroud. Ionic Spark isn't even necessary in this game because most ability power champions, let's look at the forecast. We have Ahri. I guess Ahri could use the Ionic Spark if you do like a full Spellweaver build, but if you play Ahri, you're most likely playing KDA or something like that, and Akali doesn't really need it, so you do mixed damage. So you don't absolutely have to build an Ionic Spark. Karthus targets the backline most of the time, so Ionic Spark is useless. Twisted Fate. Twisted Fate could use it, but he likes Static Shiv more anyways. And then that's it for ability power carries. If we look at 5-cost units, Ziggs has built-in magic resist shredding. Sona, again, uses stuff like Static Shiv, and she's not really a damage dealer to begin with. I guess Kayn can use it, but Kayn's been the worst legendary the entire set, except for one patch where Jhin was worse. So yeah, Negatron does not build that many items. I guess we could look at all the items here. Just go to database items and then click on Negatron Cloak. Runon's Hurricane, always a secondary option for attack damage carries, never a primary. Adaptive Helm, pretty good, but blue buff is better. Quicksilver, okay, this is the one time you absolutely need a cloak. If you're playing specifically Ribbon Reroll, you need a Quicksilver, that's it. Stoneplate, you just build it to build it. Bloodthirster, I guess this is a good item. It's never mandatory on anyone. Like, you could build Bloodthirster, you could build Handed Justice. Some people build like an Edge of Night instead, or even like a Hextech Gunblade. But I would say out of all the other items it competes with, it probably is the better healing item. And then we have Country Emblem, only useful in one comp. So yeah, that's why Negatron isn't that great. So I'm glad that they're buffing something about it. Dragonclaw being better is a big upgrade. Dragonclaw max HP is actually being reduced. Oh. Let's read this actually. Maybe it's not a pure buff. Dragonclaw is reclaiming its rightful place as the item with the most magic resist to help you itemize into heavy AP lobbies. The 10 MMR comes at a cost of 1% off the max health offered, making the item a bit sharper as an MR slam. So I guess it's like a net even, approximately at least. I didn't do the effective HP math, but if someone wants to do that, be my guest. But I guess as like a random slam, it is worse because if you just randomly slam it, you get less of the generic value out of it. It's mainly only built for ability power lobbies. Radiant items, Jack Show the Protean no longer offers both of the effects regardless of position. And then to compensate for that, they're going to be buffing each of the effects. So front 2 rows resist bonus is being buffed from 60 to 80. On hit mana is being changed from 1 to 2, so actually a pretty solid buff there, in my opinion at least. And then you could use it with the fully adaptive augment. Makes a ton of sense. For the back 2 rows, you get bonus ability power 45 to 55, and then you get 20 mana per 3 seconds instead of 15. If I remember correctly, this item actually isn't that great. What's it called? Like Jackshow, the Protean, 4.33, but let's compare it to other Radiant items because it isn't fair to just like look at a Radiant item's average placement and decide from there. And we can see that 4.33 is in the bottom half. Nothing crazy. I honestly thought it was worse. So I think this is going to be a buff. It's going to change from slightly below average to around average, I would guess. And then after that, let's look at the small changes. Small like the large changes section. And we are making sure our harder to hit trait breakpoints are worth their difficulty. So 7 country is going to be buffed from 200 to 210 AD. Oh, that's another buff for Negatron Cloak. Rapid fire attack speed per stack is being changed from 4.814 to 4.916. I never really stack more than 2 rapid fires. If I get maybe like a rapid fire Lucian or something like that, I'd play like a Caitlyn and a Aphelios. But if Caitlyn's not good, this buff does not matter because it should be balanced around how good Caitlyn is. So maybe if you get rapid fire Caitlyn, it might be worth going into 4 rapid fire. I doubt it. Mainly you're going to be playing 2 a lot of the time unless you get Lucian magically, which obviously if you get Lucian, you're doing fine anyways. Spellweaver ability power for Spellweavers is going to be buffed up 20, 35, 70, 120%, plus 1, 2, 3, 4 per cast is being changed from 20, 35, 80, 130, and 1, 2, 4, 6% per cast. So they're buffing, what is it? 7 and 9 Spellweaver. I've reached 7 before. 9 is, I don't think I've ever reached that. Maybe you could do some sort of Lulu reroll comp, or when you're playing like some sort of Spellweaver Ari build, that could be something that's really interesting to look at. Units. Now that we've reworked Karthus, he's benefiting more from repeat casts to clean up fights, so we're giving him a superfan item that's built a bit more adaptive to his current state. Note, this change shipped out early in our mid-patch update last week. So Karthus is going to get an adaptive helm instead of Archangel Staff. Makes a lot of sense. And then they're also buffing Lilia. So I'm a little confused by this because if you go to bunnymuffins.lol, you click the meta snapshot, you look at some of the top comps out there, all these comps play superfans. Katarina reroll plays superfan, Lulu, Seraphine, Kale. I believe even Pentakill plays superfan. Ari Warriors plays superfan. So I gotta wonder why they buff superfans when it's being played so much right now. I know it's not that big of a buff. They're just buffing Lilia. Who really cares about Lilia? Is it gonna make a huge difference in the game? Probably not, but I just am a little confused why a trait that's being played so often is getting another buff. We could look at the play rate for 3 Superfan. It's at a 2.16, which is pretty high, you know? Like that's not, that means in every single game, 2 players are playing some sort of Superfan. If we compare that to something like, let's say 2 Jazz, 2 Jazz is 1.48. I'm trying to think of some similar like random splash traits that people use. Maybe 1 Hyper Pop, 1.58. Obviously, like things like tank traits, like 2 Sentinel, 2 Bruiser are going to be played a lot more. But I think out of like, let's just sort by play rate. Yeah, it's pretty near the top. I don't know. I feel like it's in so many comps. I don't know why it needs the buff, but it's just Lilia, right? Lilia doesn't do that much, so it's very, very minor. I guess if you are in stage 2 and you have Lilia out there, you're not as mad as you are normally because you'd obviously much rather have something else. But maybe you don't feel that way anymore. Poppy attack speed 0.65 to 0.7, compensation for fixing a bug where Poppy gained more attack speed than intended from bonus attack speed. And then support items, it's been like this for Aegis. Aegis of the Legion tooltip now clarifies that it affects adjacent allies in the same row. So what they need to fix about Aegis of the Legion is that it says adjacent allies, and it does not buff people in front of it. So yeah, if they change it to same row and all the allies behind them, then that would make sense. Because I actually fell for that trap before because I read the tooltip, put units in front of the Aegis, and then they didn't get the buff. Obviously, since that point, I did not do that anymore, but it seems like something that they should probably fix, right? Now on to double up. So this is a little controversial because double up could go in either 2 directions. Some people view it as like a fun game mode. Some people want to like play serious double up, and the changes that they made are geared more towards the serious double up players. So the high rolls were too common, so they're kind of pulling back on them a little bit. Again, I disagree with this because when I'm playing double up, I'm not trying to like super sweat double up. I'm just trying to have fun with a friend that I play with who probably is at a different rank than me. We're just trying to play TFT together, and we like going for random 10 traits, you know? We like going for random 9 traits. We want to go for 3 stars, and that's pretty much all we want to do, right? Like, we obviously care about winning a little bit, but our main goal is just to have fun, and They're removing a little bit of fun, but they're making it more balanced. Balanced in the sense that fewer people can get like super duper lucky and auto win the game for no reason. So they're reducing the amount of traits you could get, and on average, they are reducing the amount of loot that you get, but they're also reducing the price of it. So overall, nothing's being like overpriced or underpriced or anything like that. They're just reducing the overall stuff that you could potentially get. Next up we have is 3.5 revival changes. Honestly, I didn't really play 3.5. I thought it would be cool, but I want to play the old 3.5. I don't want to play 3.5 with the new mechanics. For example, there's an item called Rapid Fire Cannon, which was an old item that you built from 2 bows, and it was a very critical build for the Blade Master comp or the Bang Bros comp, whatever you want to call it. But that item just doesn't exist anymore. So it's definitely not how it was like in the good old days, you know? Now onto bug fixes. Box LP Delta. Caitlyn should now more reliably fire all her shots from her ability, even if the target dies mid-cast. Heartsteel's 3-star 5-cost cash out now works even if there are not enough units in the pool. I actually hate this cash out, but it is what it is. Diamond Hands, Gambler's Blade, Goldmancer's Staff, and Needlessly Big Gem now correctly state that they are unique items in their tooltip. Oh, I didn't know that. And then Crest of the Cinders, Radiant Red buff, now correctly states it wounds for 33% in its tooltip. Poppy no longer gains more attack speed than intended from bonus attack speed. Buried Treasures component orbs are now blue orbs. I guess that doesn't really matter, right? Superfans will no longer grant their item to a headliner holding a Radiant Thieves gloves after combat. And then reforging Blacksmith's gloves no longer leaves artifacts on the unit. Oh yeah. I noticed this was actually a thing in Double Up as well, because we got a lot of Ornn items in Double Up. When my Double Up partner sent me a unit with Blacksmith's glove on them, some random unit got 2 items or something like that. It was really, really weird. I'm guessing it's the same thing as a Reforge. I don't remember the exact scenario where it happened, but like, I'm pretty sure it's more than one thing that causes that phenomenon. But overall, very tiny patch. Superfans got buffed. I don't really know why, but this probably is the smallest patch in TFT history. We probably should be celebrating this, because in the past couple of sets, we've had like the biggest patches in TFT history. I remember making like 3 thumbnails in a row for each patch review, and each time it was bigger and bigger and bigger than the last one, and the first one was already the biggest. I actually like this change a lot. I don't like when the game changes very drastically. So the good news is that a lot of people don't have to like completely relearn the game every 2 weeks. I will be coming out with a meta snapshot on Friday still, because obviously metas develop, metas change, and we need to be on top of our game in order to climb. So hopefully I see you all for that. But that's going to be it for me from this video. Let me know what comps you're looking forward to play in this next patch.